This is why everyone needs to prepare for the day when devastating cyber attacks take U.S. power grids down, Michael Snyder reports. What would you do if the power grid where you live went down and there was no electricity for an extended period of time? You might want to think about that because experts are warning that it's just a matter of time before cyber attacks successfully cripple our power grids. In fact, foreign hackers are working hard to infiltrate critical infrastructures as you read this. And as you'll see below, we're extremely vulnerable, and the Russians and the Chinese have both developed highly advanced cyber warfare capabilities, while the US ends up fighting a war with Russia or China or both simultaneously. Devastating cyber attacks on our power grids will be conducted when your community is suddenly plunged into darkness. What is your plan? The United States and Canada are not covered by a single power grid. Rather, there are multiple grids that collectively provide the electricity that all of us need. And following explanation comes from Wikipedia. The electrical power grid that powers North America is not a single grid, but is instead divided into multiple wide area synchronous grids. The Eastern Interconnection and Western Interconnection are the largest. Three other regions include the Texas Interconnection, the Quebec Interconnection, with Canada of course, and the Alaska Interconnection. Each region delivers power at a nominal 60 Hz frequency. The regions are not usually directly connected or synchronized to each other, but there exist some HVDC interconnectors. The eastern and western grids are connected via 7 links that allow 1.32 gigawatt to flow between them. A study by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory found that increasing these interconnections would save energy costs. Bloomberg is reporting that U.S. power grids are facing heightened risks of cyber and physical attacks as the election nears, and one expert is warning that there is a 100% chance that critical infrastructure will eventually be breached at some point. Quote, I think there's a 100% chance that organizations in the critical infrastructure space at some point will experience some sort of breach, said Stephanie Benoit Kurtz, lead cybersecurity faculty at the College of Business Information Technology at University of Phoenix. She said, no longer are the days when organizations can say, we will never be breached. It's not if, it's when, end quote. Sadly, I believe that she's quite correct. We should have never exposed our power grids to the internet, and now we are incredibly vulnerable. During a recent congressional hearing, FBI Director Christopher Wray publicly admitted that Chinese hackers have been targeting our power grids. FBI Director Christopher Wray said Wednesday that China's hackers are targeting American critical infrastructure, including water treatment plants, pipelines, and the power grid, to be able to wreak havoc in the U.S. if Beijing ever decides to do so. Testifying before the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party, Wray also warned that there has been too little public attention on the threat that he says China's efforts pose to national security. Wray told lawmakers, China's hackers are positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc and cause real-world harm to American citizens and communities if and when China decides the time has come to strike. This is a very real threat. The moment that China invades Taiwan, the U.S. and China will be at war. And the Office of the Director of National Intelligence has warned that if Beijing feared that a major conflict with the United States were imminent, it almost certainly would consider undertaking aggressive cyber operations against U.S. homeland critical infrastructure and military assets worldwide. Most Americans don't realize that the groundwork for such cyber operations is already being laid. For example, last August, Chinese hackers specifically targeted the Texas power grid. The report says that in August, hackers attempted to access the computer systems used by the Public Utility Commission of Texas, or the PUC, and the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, or ERCOT, which operate the state's power grid. Most of Texas is on its own power grid, separate from the grids used by most of the country. If you think that our systems are secure, you're just being delusional. The truth is that we are extremely vulnerable, and the North American Electrical Reliability Corporation admits that the number of weak spots is growing with each passing day. U.S. power grids are increasingly vulnerable to cyber attacks, with the number of susceptible points in electrical networks increasing by about 60 per day. The North American Electrical Reliability Corporation, NERC, said in a webcast on Thursday. The grid's virtual and physical weak spots, or points in software or hardware that are susceptible to cyber criminals, grew to a range of 23,000 to 24,000 last year, from 21,000 to 22,000 by the end of 2022, executives with the energy regulator said. It's very hard to keep pace with addressing all those vulnerabilities, said Manny Cancel, Senior Vice President of NERC. But foreign entities would not even need to gain access through a weak spot if there are already backdoors in place. According to one analysis, about 90% of software used to manage the U.S. power grid is linked to Chinese and Russian developers. Orlando-based Fortress Information Security explained that any kid with internet can contribute their block, that then can be developed into software used in America's critical infrastructure. A block, quote unquote, is one of these code components and can risk the whole secured structure, our energy grid. A Chinese agent or a Russian agent can install backdoors into one of these components, and then, unbeknownst to a software manufacturer, you grab this component, which has been tampered with and poisoned by a Chinese or Russian actor, and now they put that component into their software. It ends up in our electrical grid or an oil rig, said Alex Santos, CEO of Fortress Information Security. The company analyzed nearly 8,000 of these open source components. 13% had contributions from Russia and China. Fortress found about 90% of software used to manage the U.S. power grid is linked to Russia and Chinese developers, something that can make it 3 times as likely to contain critical vulnerabilities. How in the world did we allow this to happen? Are we really that incompetent? I was floored when I first read that. I had no idea that we were so vulnerable. Of course, it is not just our power infrastructure that's being targeted. According to Politico, Europe has been inundated with cyber attacks since Russia invaded Ukraine. Thousands of cyber attacks have inundated Europe's energy grid since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and a top industry leader is calling for help as officials and researchers fret that not nearly enough is being done. The crooks are becoming better by the day, so we need to become better by the day, Leonard Birnbaum, chief executive of E.ON, one of Europe's largest utilities, said in an interview. He said, I'm worried now, and I will be even more worried in the future. We have never seen this sort of warfare before, so most people greatly underestimate the threat. But someday the power in your area could suddenly go out without any warning whatsoever. Temporary interruptions are not the problem, but if the power is out for an extended period of time, our entire way of life will start rapidly shutting down. When power stops, life grinds to a halt, lights go out, sewage treatment stops, clean water stops, electric cars, buses, and trolleys stops, elevators stop, trapping older and disabled people, and for many, home heating, refrigeration, cooking, and clothes washing stops, along with medical devices such as oxygen generators. For many years, I've been warning my readers that conflict with Russia and conflict with China would be coming. Now both of them are actively hacking into power infrastructure in the United States and Europe. I hope you have a plan, because this is just a matter of time before cyber attacks start causing widespread chaos all over the globe. This is by Michael Snyder on End of the American Dream. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Michael's new book, entitled Chaos, available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon, and you can check out his new Substack newsletter right here. About the author, Michael Snyder, extremely controversial new book, Chaos, available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 7 other books available on Amazon, including End Times, 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, commissions earned. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work that he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, The Most Important News, and he always freely and happily allows others to republish those articles on their own websites. You can connect with Michael on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter and share his articles on your own social media accounts. It's definitely a great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. My Patreon account, the daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.